Hi, my name is Samantha Bonnet, and I'll be teaching y'all about Greater Oceania. It focuses on Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand. Oceania is a region made up of thousands of islands throughout the Central and South Pacific Ocean. Australia lies between the Pacific and Indian Oceans. New Zealand is a remote land and lies more than 1,000 miles southeast of Australia. Indonesia is located off the coast of mainland Southeast Asia and the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Australia has a population of 25 million. The population density is low, of just 7 people. New Zealand has a population of roughly 4 million. The population density is currently approximately 6 people per square mile. Indonesia's population is 270 million. About 56.7% of the population lives in Java, the most populous island. The population density of Indonesia is currently at 140.08 per square kilometer. Trade statistics with the U.S. The U.S. Australia Free Trade Agreement has served as the basis of our bilateral trade relationship. Under the FTA, all tariffs have been eliminated for products exported from the U.S. to Australia. The FTA has led to trade and investment growing in both directions. The U.S. and New Zealand engage regularly to discuss trade and investment issues. And the United States and Indonesia meet regularly under the 1996 Bilateral Trade and Investment Framework Agreement. Indonesia and the U.S. work to address bilateral issues and coordinate on regional and multinational issues. Exports and imports of all three countries. The top exports of New Zealand are concentrated milk and sheep and goat meat. Top imports are cars and crude petroleum. For Australia, top exports are iron ore and coal briquettes. Top imports are cars and refined petroleum. For Indonesia, top exports are coal briquettes and palm oil. Top imports are refined petroleum and crude petroleum. History of U.S. trade. U.S. trade with Australia supports over 300,000 U.S. jobs. Australian companies employ 18,000 in Texas alone. Australia is the biggest exporter to the U.S. in beef. The U.S. invests more in Australia than any other country in the Asia Pacific. Australia invests in U.S. to a total of almost $500 billion. Over 1.3 million Australian tourists visit the U.S. each year, spending more than $8.7 billion. According to the website for New Zealand Foreign Affairs and Trade, New Zealand and the U.S. are close strategic partners. They have a deep and long-standing friendship, united by a commitment to promote a free, democratic, secure, and prosperous world. There is an embassy located in Washington. In Indonesia, Indonesia is a vital partner in the Indo-Pacific region, and U.S.-Indonesia relations have taken on an increasing importance. Indonesia is the world's third largest democracy, with the largest Muslim majority country and the eighth largest economy by purchasing power. Average annual income and distribution of New Zealand. Average annual personal income is $51,527. A third of respondents said their current household income was either not enough or only just enough. Average annual household increased 41% to reach $105,719 for the year ended in June 2018. Continued for New Zealand, as the graph at the left shows, the average income of someone in the richest 1% has doubled from just under $200,000 to nearly $400,000. In contrast, the average disposable income for someone in the poorest 10% is only slightly higher than it was in the 1980s. It's considered inequality, and you can see this in lots of the income and distribution of all three of these countries. Indonesia is currently the third fastest growing economy. The latest statistic suggests that Indonesia's gross domestic product per capita increased on average at 4%. Indonesia's economic growth spurred a rising inequality. This is reflected in the country's Gini index, which measures inequality from 0, which means perfect equality, to 100, which is perfect inequality. For Indonesia continued, Indonesia still struggles with poverty and unemployment, inadequate infrastructure, corruption, a complex regulatory environment, and unequal resource distribution among its regions. For Australia, the infographic at the left shows annual household income by quintiles, which are 20% categories, each comprising around 2 million of Australia's 10 million households. It shows the spread of total earnings. While the average household earns just under $110,000, the top 1 in 5 earn more than twice, exceeding $260,000, and the bottom 1 in 5 take home around a fifth of the average, a little over $23,000. This means that while the bottom fifth of households take home just 4% of all income, the top fifth get almost half at 48%. This also is an example of the inequality. State of economy for Australia. Australia's economic freedom score is 80.9, making it the fifth freest. Almost all industries are open to foreign competition. It's an attractive and dynamic destination for investment, and the unemployment rate is 5.6%. New Zealand's economy is farming based, made possible by a temperate climate, heavy investment in land improvement, and highly skilled farm management. New Zealand's economy is developed, but is comparatively small in the marketplace. Indonesia's economic freedom score is 65.8, making it the 56th freest. The government's efforts to improve Indonesia's business environment and attract foreign direct investment by upgrading infrastructure, prosecuting corruption cases more aggressively, and taking other steps to improve the regulatory environment are aimed at sustaining economic development and diversification. Its unemployment rate's at 4.2%. Economic aspects of marketing in New Zealand. The New Zealand economy is very dependent on international trade and tourism. The U.S. is New Zealand's third most important trading partner. The foundation of New Zealand's economy is exporting agricultural products. New Zealand's businesses are consistently ranked high for honesty and integrity. New Zealand's market size is ideal for new to export companies and for testing new to market products. Indonesia, traditional retail channels, including mom and pop stores and wet markets, still dominate the retail landscape. Indonesians strongly prefer and trust local brands. They take pride in using Indonesian brands, and they believe that local companies truly understand Indonesian consumers. Continued for Australia, the Australian economy is dominated by its service sector, comprising 68% of the GDP. The mining sector represents 7% of the GDP. Economic growth is largely dependent on the mining sector and the agricultural sector. Tourism is an important aspect of economic growth in Australia, with main attractions like the Sydney Opera House and the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Here you can see pictured the Sydney Opera House. Languages and religion. Australia's national language is English. Some Mandarin is also spoken, but there is no established church or religion. The vast majority agree with one of the branches of Christianity. In Indonesia, Indonesia's dominant language is Indonesian language as indicated in the Indonesian constitution. Other languages spoken are Javanese and Sundanese. Indonesia has a large Muslim population with around 86% identifying with Sunni Islam. Other religions include Protestant Christianity, Roman Catholic, Hinduism, and Buddhism. In New Zealand, the dominant language is English. Maori is the dominant indigenous language. The religion of this country is dominantly Christian with some Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam also. Customs, values, and business practices of Australia. Some values are equality, freedom of speech, association, and religion. I thought it was interesting that you must sign an Australian value statement if you're 18 years or older before you can get a visa. Customs, it's polite to shake someone's right hand when meeting for the first time. Eye contact is important during conversation, but staring is considered rude. Common to call someone by the first name only. For New Zealand, customs are the drinking culture. The drinking age is at 18. There are private people. They take shoes off indoors. Sharing food is a common way of bringing people together. Business practices include being on time or early, talking minimally while eating, taking time to have tea, and tipping is also considered rare. For Indonesia, customs are handshake. Titles are important and signify status. Quiet speaking, loud people would be considered aggressive. After formal greeting and handshake, business cards are usually exchanged. Treat business cards with respect. Conservative dress attire. Initial meetings are more about getting to know each other than actual business. Political environments. The Australian Constitution of 1901 established a federal system of government. Powers are distributed between a national government and the 6 states. The Constitution defines the boundaries of lawmaking powers between the Commonwealth and the states and territories. Parliament is at the very heart of the Australian national government. It consists of the Queen and 2 houses. These 3 elements make Australia a constitutional monarchy and parliamentary democracy. New Zealand is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system of government. The Queen is represented in New Zealand by the Governor-General. There's 3 different branches like us, the legislative, executive, and a judiciary. In Indonesia, it's a democratic country that applies a presidential system. Pancasila is the soul of the Indonesian democracy. It is the philosophic fundamentals of the state. It consists of 5 principles that are interrelated and inseparable: the belief in one God, a just and civilized humanism, unity of Indonesia, democratic citizenship led by wise guidance born of representative consultation, and social justice for all people of Indonesia. Australia uses the Australian dollar. 1 US dollar equals 1.43 AUD. Indonesia uses the Indonesian rupiah. 1 US dollar is 14,143.80 IDR. And New Zealand uses the New Zealand dollar. 1 US dollar is 1.49 of the New Zealand dollars. Infrastructure. Australian businesses rely on transport infrastructure to connect to domestic and global export market. The efficient movement of people and products grows the economy and improves the livability of cities and regions. The Australian government is investing a record $100 billion to improve infrastructure. The road system in New Zealand is good, even in rural districts, and the main cities have express highway systems, though the difficult terrain of the country often can make for slow journeys. The distances involved are seldom great. In Indonesia, a hindering impact to the economy is the lack of quality and quantity of infrastructure. Indonesia seems to have a hard time pushing for structural and rapid development. Therefore, the Indonesian government is aware about the importance to offer a more attractive investment. There are not enough roads, harbors, airports, and bridges in Indonesia, while existing infrastructure is considered weak. Internet access. Australia, households with children aged 15 years, 97% have access. Households without children under 15, 82% have access. Major cities' households have more access than the remote parts of Australia. New Zealand, 89% of the population are active internet users. And in Indonesia, the internet penetration rate is only 53.7%. Media is restricted, and Indonesians are among the most active users of social media such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Who buys over the internet? With Indonesia, online shopping has low penetration. Consumers don't trust online shopping. A consuming class of 20 million people, however, are breaking away from traditional Indonesian attitudes. In Australia, e-commerce is booming. Last year, Australians spent a total of $20.3 billion on online shopping. As of January 2019, online shopping is responsible for 9% of Australia's total retail sale. Online shopping in New Zealand is popular and annually increasing. Purchase total approximated $3 billion on online sales. Travel is the lead e-commerce purchase, and many of these products are purchased through the Amazon and Alibaba platforms. Internet-based marketing in Greater Oceania. According to Stripes report, some 81% of Australian consumers currently have a form of ad blocking technology. Many Australians see advertisements as irrelevant or annoying. 1 in 5 will not see a digital ad in a 30-day span. Advertisers would do well to take the time to invest in other high-performing channels like ebooks, webinars, and video content. New Zealand, factors such as secure payment and product quality remain top of line, even though it is increasingly preferred to shop online. Online shoppers in New Zealand spent more than ever in 2018, and a strong growth is expected to continue. In Indonesia is arguably the most important internet market in Southeast Asia as a result of its sheer size, emerging middle class, and digital savvy population. There's only about a 50% penetration rate, and half of the Indonesian population is still offline, leaving a massive potential for e-commerce ventures. For direct investment, the U.S. is Australia's largest direct investor. The investment is also two-way, worth $1.47 trillion, almost as large as Australia's gross domestic product. U.S. foreign direct investment in Australia was $168.9 billion in 2017. U.S. direct investment in Australia is led by non-bank holding companies, manufacturing, and mining. For New Zealand, according to the Department of Commerce, U.S. exports of goods and services supported an estimated 33,000 jobs. The U.S. has a service trade surplus of an estimated $289 million. U.S. foreign direct investment in New Zealand was $11.9 billion in 2017. In Indonesia, U.S. foreign direct investment was $15.2 billion. In 2017, U.S. direct investment in Indonesia is led by mining, non-bank holding companies, and manufacturing as well. According to the Department of Commerce, U.S. exports of goods and services to Indonesia supported an estimated 56,000 jobs in 2015. Australia would be a desirable international business alternative. Trade with Australia creates multiple U.S. jobs. The U.S. also invests more in Australia than any other country in the Asia Pacific. New Zealand would also be a desirable international business alternative. New Zealand's economy is farming-based. Their superior agricultural exports are made possible by their temperate climate and heavy instrument and land improvement. New Zealand also has a developed economy. Indonesia would be an undesirable international business alternative. It has poor and undeveloped infrastructure, making transportation difficult. Other challenges are corruption in government and protectionist policies. Here's a link to a shareable document on Google Docs of all of the sources I use. It's just the websites. You can click on them. There are the links if you are curious and want some more information. Thanks for watching.